Alright, sorry for the confusion regarding the value. I also didn't read the email. Okay, take a seat. Let's get started. Can you all hear me through the mic? Can you hear? Can, right? Alright. Thanks. Alright, welcome. Let's carry on with where we stopped the last time. So, you can take our lecture notes. Okay, already. Okay, so in the last lecture, right, in DC circuit, we talked about Kirchhoff's first and second law and how to apply it to solve some simple circuit problems. So today's lecture, we're going to learn a new principle called the potential divider principle, but it actually isn't very difficult, it's pretty easy. So let's come to the second part. So the first part, I'm going to recap some of your secondary school knowledge with resistors and light bulbs. Okay, it will surprise you that you didn't know as much as you thought you did, hopefully. Alright, so first I'm going to quickly go through the properties of resistors. So for resistors in parallel and series, right, if we connect two resistors in series, they have the same current, right? Because the same current has to pass through both of them. So we can say that the potential difference between A and C is the sum of the potential difference between the two resistors that make up the series circuit. Right? And if we apply V equals to IR, we get the result that any resistors in series can be combined together as just the sum of their resistance. Right, so let's recap. So conversely, when we have two resistors in parallel, they must both have the same potential difference because I can consider a point A and a point C. Those 2 points must have the same potential difference regardless of which path I take in the potential loop. Right? So the PD across both of them is the same. So I can also apply Kirchhoff's first law to say that the current at this junction must be I equals to I1 plus I2. And putting those two together, I have 1 over the effective resistance between A and C is just equal to 1 over the each resistance plus 1 over the other resistance and so on and so forth. Right, so just a quick recap on how we derive this in secondary school. So not too difficult, right? Okay, if that's not too difficult, let's take a look at this case. We have 8 resistors and they are connected in series and parallel at the same time. Right? Let's find the effective resistance of this circuit. No trick. It's a simple question. There's no trick. Just apply the parallel and series rule. Right, but the diagram is exactly as is given. The last two resistors aren't connected to any other device. So therefore, since they are not connected to anything, there's no current that can flow through them. We don't need to take them into account because current can't flow through them anyway. They can't contribute their resistance to the circuit. So we are effectively left with these 6 resistors. I can say that the resistor between the point M and the point N, right, is actually in series with the resistor before it, X and Y. Right? And if I do that, can I combine them together like this? Can? Cannot. Nice try though. Why cannot? Well, I'm considering the resistance between point X and Y, right? Which means to say that M and N, although it's in series with these 2 resistors, is also simultaneously in parallel with the 3 resistors behind it. So there is a sequence in which we need to apply before we solve the problem. So if you draw out your diagram nicely, you'll realize, right, that I need to reduce this parallel circuit first into one resistor before I can add it up to the series. So you need to resolve parallels before series in general. And to resolve this parallel, right, the one between M and N and the other loop between M and N, I first need to convert the 3 of them into one resistor. So find the effective resistance of the 3 three of them. Then after that, find the effective resistance of the two of these in parallel, and then add it up in series to the last two. So there is a specific sequence in which we have to do it. We can't just anyhow see, oh, these three are in series, therefore I can add them together. Because I can look at this other loop at M and say that these five are in series as well. But of course they're not in series, they're just in parallel with respect to one another. So we reduce the parallel first. So there is a particular sequence, just be careful. Alright, so okay, the first time I bamboozled you already. Alright, there's going to be a couple more times today, so watch out for it. Any questions? So far, quite easy, right? So of course, if we apply the equations and solve it, we'll get the result of 11 over 4r. You can try this at home if you want to, just get a bit of practice. We'll definitely have practice like this in the exam. Not this exam, but in our exam. Okay, so I'm not going to go through this calculation because it's quite simple, yeah? I think I didn't print it, so you all can copy it down. I did, thank you. So don't you copy it down. We'll just move on from here, yeah? Okay, here's the fun part. So we've covered resistors. Let's talk about light bulbs now. Question, does the brightness of a light bulb depend on A, its current, or B, the potential difference across it? Wow, seriously, you're too smart. The last lecture group, the LT5 one was like, so it's another bamboozle time. It's actually both, right? It can be, it depends on the current, but it depends on the current ceteris paribus, right? Which means if the voltage is constant, a light bulb, an identical light bulb with a larger current will be brighter. And if ceteris paribus, the current between two light bulbs are the same, the one which has the larger potential difference will be brighter. So it's actually a combination of both of them. How do we explain this? Is there a way to explain it? Yeah, right? How bright a light bulb is literally how much energy is pouring out per unit time, right? And the pouring out energy per unit time is power. And P equals to IV. That's why you have to consider both I and V at the same time. Right? Unless you are sure that both cases have the same voltage. Okay, if that's the case, I think you all can take a look at this question and solve it. We have a battery, and in the battery, it's connected in series to 3 light bulbs. But one of the light bulbs has a switch applied in parallel across it, and there's a zero resistance switch. So what happens when I close this switch? Of course, before I close the switch, the 3 light bulbs will all light up, the current flows through all of them. And now that I close the switch, something will happen to the circuit. So you guys can feel free to discuss with each other what you all think, the person beside you or the person behind you, whatever, which you all think the answer is. At least be able to rule out some options. They might blow. Okay, let's assume that they are still capable of producing light. Yeah, they don't melt or anything. Don't know. Okay, I don't like I think it's a guess, right? You need to be able to reason it out. Every lecture I always tell you all, when you have an answer, you need to be able to reason it out, right? So let's reason it out together. I know when I close my switch, right, that the current will flow around the switch. Now, that's because of the nature of circuits. If there are 2 paths to take, the current will take both of the paths. Unless one path has 0 resistance, then all of the electrons will take that path instead. Of course, we're talking about the conventional current. So the conventional current will take that path instead. So this means that this light bulb, right, C, right, will be completely bypassed. And A and B will light up and C will not light up. That rules out B and D already. So it's A, C, or D. Either the brightness remain the same, or they decrease, or they increase. Right? Now, both of these light bulbs, right, used to have a potential difference of E applied, divided by 3 applied across each one of them, right? But now that there's only 2 of them, the potential difference is now E divided by 2, which is larger. Right? So a larger potential difference is is now applied across each of them, and of course they end up brighter. Okay, if you want to calculate the current case, you can try to complete yourself as well. Right, so of course the answer is E, they're both brighter now. Okay, that's the easy one. Next one, getting more and more difficult already. So this one, you probably will need to draw some diagrams in your own lecture notes and maybe write some calculations. Okay, I will upload the lecture video, of course, and if you need, I can give you a PDF of the slides as well. Okay, so of course this isn't in your lecture notes. It's not one of the examples, it's just a quiz. Alright, so we got two sets of lamps, and both of them have 12 light bulbs in each set. And one set I connect all of the lamps in parallel, one of the set I connect all of the lamps in series. Which one is brighter? Well, let's remember from secondary school, right? Got reason or not? What's the reason? Okay, what's the name? Eve. Okay, cool. Leaf. Okay, so what's the reason that you say it's parallel and brighter? How about in the series? Series is divide by 12. Okay. But what if I told you that maybe in the series with circuit, right, the current going through each one of them is larger. That makes up for the difference. Yeah, the resistance is the same. Then how? Can the currents be different? So you must actually calculate lah. So she has a good justification. She says that in parallel, right, the PD across each bulb is now larger. So I tried to cheat and say that actually the current is actually smaller. So if you want to, you can try to do this calculation. You assume that the current going through the resistor, the light bulbs when they're all in series, right, is I, right? You'll find that the current going through each light bulb is now 12I. So not only is the potential difference across each light bulb more, the current is more also. So they're significantly brighter in parallel than in series. So thanks, Liz. It's a good answer. Okay, it's a good answer. So, are you able to calculate this value of 12I? So you assume that this EMF is 240. You can go and calculate and assume that this resistance is R. Calculate the current and let the current be I. Now the EMF is again 240, but the PD across each bulb is still 240. Okay, find the current going through it. What equation would you use? You can just use P equals to V squared over R, right? Or you can use you can find the power going through each light bulb. That's one way to do it. Okay, or you can use V equals to IR as well. Across this is 240, R is still R. Across this case, it's 240 divided by 12, and then it's still R. So you get a current I here and current 12I here because there's no divide by 12. Right, so both ways you will still get the same answer. You'll end up with 12 amps here. 12I here, sorry. Let's recap. For the light bulbs can act like resistors, right? So when they're in series, this 240 volts is spread across each one of them, which means each light bulb only has 20 volts. Whereas when they're in parallel, each of them has 240 volts. You can use V equals to IR to find the current. And you find that the current here, since they have the same resistance in both cases, the current here must be 12I, which is much larger. Okay, so how to answer the next question now? Will the power supply last longer if the lamps are in series or parallel? Yeah, they will definitely last longer in series, right? Because the lamps, each lamp is less bright. So when you connect them in series, they will dissipate energy at a slower rate. Yeah. So you can't run away from the conservation of energy. If your same battery is going to provide make the bulb brighter, they definitely last shorter. Okay. Right, here comes the most challenging quiz question I have for you all, the series of questions. So now we take the 12 light bulbs, put them in series, right, and something is wrong. Oh no. I'm going to connect a voltmeter to try to find out what's wrong. Okay, the light bulbs don't light up. I want to try to identify the fault. So first thing I notice is if I connect the potential a voltmeter between A and M, okay, the voltmeter reads 0. What could possibly have gone wrong? Other than having some visualization helps. Imagine your voltmeter has two tips. How a voltmeter gets its reading, right? It takes the potential on one side minus the potential on the other side. So you use that logic, you can solve all of these kind of problems. Okay, so what one might be tempted to say is, aha, I connect the voltmeter this way, and then actually got one of the light bulb in between the wire break, or one of the light bulb itself is broken. That's why it doesn't light up. Right? Okay, the empirical observation is the PD between A and M is 0. So if this were the case, right, let's see the left-hand side of the voltmeter. The left-hand side of the voltmeter is connected to the tail of the battery, which we can take to be 0 volts. Yeah, so the left side measures the back side of the battery, and the right side measures the front side of the battery. So I should get a PD of 240 volts, not 0 volts. So even in a circuit like this, right, where it's an incomplete circuit, an open circuit, there's still potential difference, because this one just measures the terminals of the battery in this case. Right? Others? The battery is what? So it can't be that there's something wrong with one of the light bulbs, or that there's a wire broken in between. There's other possibility though. What if I make a gap here? Let's test. Okay, the left side of the voltmeter is still connected to the 0 side, and the right side of the voltmeter is connected to M, but M is no longer connected to the head of the battery. Where is M connected though to? If none of the light bulbs are broken, M is still in contact with this terminal of the battery, right? So actually M should read 0 as well. That's a good reply. What? How can the potential of difference of all these batteries, all these light bulbs add up to 0, right? Is that good? Is that why you're wondering? Is that why you're wondering? Okay, you all accept my argument that if the left side of the voltmeter is connected to the 0, the tail of the battery, it will read 0. And if the head of the voltmeter is connected to the head of the battery, it will read 240 on the right side. Then the potential difference will be 240 minus 0, right? But the right side is not connected anymore to the head of the battery. Right now. So the right side cannot read 240. The right side will read whatever terminal of the battery is connected to, which is actually the left side as well. How come it can pass through all these light bulbs without any drop in potential or any change in potential? Well, when a resistor or a circuit component has no current flowing through it, it just doesn't contribute any potential difference. You can only have a potential drop across a circuit component, right, when it's converting electrical energy to other forms of energy. So open circuit like this has no current flowing through it. It doesn't matter if these were light bulbs or resistors, there wouldn't be any potential difference across any of them. That means if I connect a voltmeter between I and J, right, there wouldn't be a potential difference due to the light bulb by itself. That means the potential doesn't drop across the light bulb if no current flows through it. Okay, if you all understand that, okay, then you understand why this one cannot be the case. Why this one has to be the answer for the case that we're talking about. Because the potential at M is the same as the potential at L, and so on and so forth, and it's the same as the potential at A. So if A has the same potential as M, their potential difference is 0, and the voltmeter always reads the difference in potential from its left side and its right side, and it shows 0. Right? Because that's exactly what a voltmeter does. It reads the potential difference from its left side and its right side arm. Good. Still far from the end. Now we change the situation a bit. I have this circuit again the same. The potential difference is 0 across every lamp except for E and F. Oh wait, now I have a potential difference across across a lamp. How can that be? Right? No current is going through them, right? Right? So now I have one of my light bulbs with a potential difference of E and F, but the potential difference across the rest of the light bulb is 0. Don't forget, my circuit is still spoiled. That means the light bulbs are still not light up. None of the light bulbs are lit up. The wire break, where? Like just now's case? Between E and F, good. So if E and F is faulty, how come I have no picture? Okay. If E and F is faulty, right? If I connect a voltmeter to E, the left side of the voltmeter will be connected to the tail of the battery. The right side of the voltmeter at F because E is broken, right, it's not connected to the tail, but it's rather connected to the head of the battery. So what the voltmeter is measuring will be the potential difference of the battery because it's on the left side and on the right side. That's quite clear, right? Now, how do we explain then that the potential difference across every other lamp is zero? Well, if we connect if the E and F is broken, that means the filament is broken. If I connect the voltmeter across A and B, the left side is connected to the tail, the right side is connected to the tail of the battery as well. So they both measure the same potential. If I connect it across L and M, M is connected to the head of the battery, L is connected to the head of the battery, they both measure the same potential again. So that's why you get zero no matter which light bulb you're measuring across. Except if the left side is on E and the right side is on F and E and F are broken in between. Then his left side is connected to the tail of the battery and his right side is connected to the head of the battery. Right? Very confusing, eh? Okay, one more case. The PD between A and M is 240 volts, but the PD is zero across every other single lamp. Only the most complicated case you can think of. I can think of now. How many do you need? Declan, how many do you need? You said break, right? Declan's on the right track. He said break. Actually, you don't need that many breaks. You need 2 breaks generally. Right? As long as you have 2 breaks between them, okay, as long as you have 2 breaks between them, if you connect the left side of the terminal to A, you'll definitely read the tail, and the right side to M, you'll definitely be reading the head and tail of the battery. That's for sure, right? If you're connecting between A and M. Right? But if you connect between any 2 batteries, right, because there's more than 2 breaks, you will never ever have the case where one of the left leg of your voltmeter is connected to the tail of the battery and the right leg is connected to the head of the battery. That's why no matter which light bulb you put across, there will be 0 volts. Right? The only case where you have a light bulb having the voltmeter having 240 volts is when the left side is connected directly, that means through no unbroken filament, to the head of the tail of the battery, and the right side to the head of the battery. I say again, the only way the voltmeter can ever read a reading of 240 is there must have been an unbroken path for it, like this case, an unbroken path for it to be connected to its left leg. That means if I put this leg at D, there must have been an unbroken path from the tail to D to the voltmeter, and an unbroken path from its right leg to the other terminal of the voltmeter. Now, if I have two of the light bulbs broken, right, or 2 of the filaments broken, right, there's no way for this to happen across any light bulb. It means if I put A, B, B, C, C, D, D, E, E, F, and so on and so forth, none of them have that situation. That's why none of them will give me 240 volts, except the case where I put one at A and one at M. So that's what covers all the different possibilities. It's not that difficult. Moral of the story, if a resistor has no current flowing through it, there's no potential difference across it. If a voltmeter, to measure what the voltmeter measures, the potential difference reading on the voltmeter is just the difference between its left leg potential and its right leg potential. Right? And it depends on what it's connected to. Okay? That's basically how voltmeters work. Okay, so let's quickly summarize this. Will there be a current flowing through such a circuit? Well, when one of the filament blows, no, right? No current flows because it's an open circuit. The potential difference between L and M is 0 because L is connected directly to the head of the battery and M is connected directly to the head of the battery. So both terminals of the voltmeter measure the same thing. So no potential difference. Right? The PD between C and D, because C is connected to the head and D is connected to the tail directly, you get 240 volts. And the PD across any other lamp will be 0. Because the tails will, the left leg and right leg of the voltmeter will always be either on the brown line or completely on the yellow line. Okay, so you all get this? You don't get the what? The leg part of the voltmeter? Okay, so the two break one, you just need to draw a diagram where there's two breaks. Right? And in order for it to have a 240 volt reading, you need to have one of the legs connected to one line that is directly connected to the pole, and the right leg connected to a line that is directly connected. Yeah. No, I mean, but this is not that case. This is another case. Yeah, this is just summary. Alright, so that case right was this case. Potential difference between A and M is 240, but potential difference across every pair is 0. This case is the C is broken case. CD is broken. Okay, there are two different cases. Okay, and then just a bit of revision for you all. Okay, you technically should be able to do this. Okay, if you're not sure, draw the diagram out, connect your voltmeter to it directly, draw a voltmeter and connect to it. You should be able to get it. Yes, which one? This one? Okay, this one. Okay. So let's say there's two breaks, right? Let's say there's a break at D and a break at E. If I put my voltmeter across C and E, what would the potential difference be? 0. Right? Okay? Alright, never mind. Go home and try it and think about it again. Okay, if I want to start covering what I wanted to do today, which is called the potential divider. Okay, the potential divider is basically the new principle you're going to need to apply to solve problems in DC circuit. It's actually very, very easy. Let me show you. Okay, consider a resistor, but this is my variable resistor because it's a piece of metal where I can connect one more thing somewhere in between. Alright, so physically what will it look like? It will look like a ruler. Like a metal ruler would be a variable resistor like this. On one end of the ruler I can always connect a wire, on the other end I can connect another wire, and I can take a crocodile clip and clip in between as well, if I want, and slide that crocodile clip up and down. So that's what a variable resistor would look like in a real life. We call such a thing a resistance wire, if it's wire. If not, a ruler would be a good visualization of what this is. So I can actually connect a battery to it. Now the battery is now connected in series to this resistor, right? And the potential difference that the battery provides around the resistor is AB, VAB, right? And that's equal to the EMF of the battery, of course. Right? Now I can ask you a question. If I connect a good voltmeter, a perfect voltmeter, right, across this terminal and this terminal, do you think it will read the same voltage as the EMF of the battery? No. Well, it wouldn't. Would it read 0? It wouldn't also, right? So your intuitions tell you, number one, it won't read the same as VAB. It also won't read 0. It will read somewhere in between. So this principle, right, will actually formalize how much it should read. So actually, it's a very simple ratio. The potential divider principle says the voltage between B and C as a ratio of the voltage between A and B is just equal to the ratio of the resistors between C and B divided by the total resistance between B and A. That's all. You can see the ratio. So it's like this section over the total, the ratio is the same for its voltage as well as its resistance. Right? Quite a simple case. Let's go prove it. So actually what I have done, right, by cutting this, by inserting a connector here, right, is effectively I've turned this one resistor, right, into two pieces of resistance. Resistance R1 and resistance R2. Correct? So now it's as if I have two resistors in series. So if I want to find the resistance, the potential difference across R1 or R2, I need to consider the current flowing through them, right? So the current flowing through them is nothing but the EMF divided by their total resistance. Yeah, this is O-level stuff, right? So to get V2, all I need to do is take R2 times the current going through it, because that's V equals to IR. Right? But I've already derived an expression for the current going through it. So what I should get is something like this. I rearrange it, I'll end up with the ratio of R2 over the total resistance is equal to the ratio of V2 over the total voltage. Right, so this is the potential divider principle. Okay, I've made one very glaring assumption here. What? No, it's an assumption that I've made. Remember I said that I want to measure V2, the potential difference, right? I've used a perfect voltmeter. What if this voltmeter, right, is not perfect? Or what if it was some other circuit component, like another resistor? Could I then say this V2 is just equal to this expression? Okay, I can't actually, because this ratio to the whole resistance means that I need to consider the point here between the two resistors and the term and the edge here, the amount of resistance there is there. If this were another resistor, right, that would change the total resistance here, right, because they are now in parallel. So I do need to consider what I put on the right hand side. That would affect the total resistance. So I'll show it to you all in this example. Okay, you all ready? So what we're going to apply is the potential divider principle. But now the thing that I put it together with it on the right side is an object with resistance, not infinite resistance. Okay, so in this case it's a voltmeter, but the voltmeter has a resistance RV. So first I'm going to need to find the resistance between X and Y. Earlier on it was easy, right? Because I didn't have a circuit component there, I was just merely considering the PV. The resistance was just R2 earlier on. But now the resistance between X and Y is no longer R2. It's no longer R2 because I have two resistors in parallel. Easy, right? So I need to apply the resistors in parallel formula to find the resistance. So this is the resistors in parallel formula. It's just 1 over Rxy equals to 1 over Rv plus 1 over R2. Okay, and then I just combine the fractions together and flip it up. Then it looks like this. Okay, it looks familiar to you all. It does, right? Okay, so I found the effective resistance between X and Y from the two resistors in parallel. Okay, I can now apply my potential divider principle. The potential divider principle says that the potential difference between X and Y to the total potential difference is equal to the ratio of the resistance between X and Y, which we have found here, to the total resistance, which is of course this resistance plus R1, because they are now in series. Right, so far so good, right? So now the expression looks quite complicated, because actually don't forget this Rxy, right, is this monster here. So you plug them in, you get a fraction on top and a fraction in the denominator. So it looks a bit monstrous. But we're going to derive an interesting result here. Clearly this Vxy, right, is not the same as if I had a perfect voltmeter here and I measured the potential difference xy for a resistor R2 that's in series. Right? It's not the same because it's very complicated. It's R2 over R2V divided by R2 plus RV divided by R2 RV over R2 plus RV plus R1 times V naught. Very complicated expression. So clearly it's not as simple as just the potential difference here, right? Due to just R2. So let's consider this case where we make RV very large. If we make RV very large, then this expression will become R2. Looks quite complicated like this, right? But when you do the resistance in parallel formula, it's much easier. Okay? Because one of the terms will be 0. So once you do that, you get Rxy equals to R2. Your formula reduces to the formula that you expect. Right? So if you let Rxy equals to R2, which means that this resistance is infinite, okay, you will get this simple result, which we expect. Right? So to measure actual PV across a resistor, the voltmeter needs to have an infinite resistance. This actually justifies why your voltmeter should have infinite resistance. In secondary school, your teacher would have probably made you memorize that voltmeter must have infinite resistance to work, right? This is the explanation why. We'll use the potential divider principle to argue that if it weren't, then you will not get the correct voltage measure. you look at this example, or the example that shows you that I assume that the voltmeter doesn't have infinite resistance, then I would not be able to measure the correct potential difference as if the voltmeter wasn't there. Maybe I give you a couple of minutes to digest this, and if you have any questions, I can answer it. If you are not sure, it's on page 11. Yeah. Anyone have difficulty understanding this? Can I explain it again? Shall I do it again? Yeah, I shall do it again.
So because it's infinite, then the current doesn't pass through.
Because it's infinite, the current doesn't pass through, and then this means that if I connect it like this, right, this potential difference would be as if I didn't have any resistor capacity. Okay, maybe I didn't make the motivations of the derivation clear. Okay, so we started out with the previous example that says that if I just consider the potential difference V2 here, I'm actually measuring the potential difference of this resistor R2 here, right? And one way I will do it in reality is I will just insert in a voltmeter into this location. That's how I would usually measure potential difference. So let's consider the case, right? Where V2 here looks like R2 over R1 plus R2, V0. This is what I expect it to look like when I connect my voltmeter. Right? Now, I'm going to connect a voltmeter that has a resistance RV, and it turns out my VXY doesn't look anything at all like this. It looks like a much more complicated monster because each one of this is this. Right? So I don't get the result that I expected. Why? It's because of the fact that when I connect a resistor in parallel with this resistor, the effective resistance between X and Y changes. Right? So that I still have to use that. I still consider that when applying my potential divider principle. So the potential divider principle says the resistance between X and Y, not just from this one object, but from any kind of object that's between X and Y. Which means I have to compute effective resistance. And the only case where this expression turns back into this expression as if I didn't have any object here is of course when the voltmeter has a infinite resistance or very, 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 very large resistance. Then the expression will reduce back to what I wanted it to be, which is R2 over R1 plus R2 times V0. Okay, if you don't understand this, do read it again or ask a tutor or ask me. Okay? It's actually quite important. Now, I'll show you all two applications of the potential divider, and then we'll call it a day for today's lecture. See, quite easy. The first application, right, is we're going to insert a thermistor. Do you remember what a thermistor does? When it's hotter, it makes noise? No. When it's hotter, its resistance decreases. So I connect a thermistor in series with a resistor, and then this resistor has a resistance, right? Has a potential difference V, which I want to measure. So how do I measure this potential difference? Well, I just use my potential divider principle and apply it, and I'll get its potential difference V as a combination of V0, R, and RTH, the resistor's resistance. Now here's the nice thing that happens. When the temperature rises, RTH will decrease, right? So the denominator decreases. If the denominator decreases, the voltmeter reading will increase. When the temperature increases, the voltmeter reading increases. When the temperature decreases, the voltmeter reading decreases. Which means I have some kind of correlation, right? I take the voltmeter reading, I will roughly know how the temperature is changing. Now, I'm sure you have an alarm clock at home or something in your phone that can measure temperature, right? Can your phones measure temperature? I think some of your phones can. I know there are a lot of alarm clocks that measure temperature, and there's definitely no mercury within it for it to measure the temperature, right? How does it measure the temperature? Very simple. It has a thermistor inside, and using the thermistor, it's able to know what voltage corresponds to what temperature. You just need to do a calibration. So that's how we know the temperature without having an actual thermometer. We use the thermistor instead, and use the relationship between voltage in a potential divider to derive our relationship. Does that make sense? Right, this one will make sense to you all. Now, instead of connecting a voltmeter here, right, I connect to some alarm. And this alarm, right, will ring, right, when the voltage across it is large. And it will not ring when the voltage across it is low. So let's say I have a fire going on. The fire reduces the thermistor's resistance. And of course, the voltmeter reading increases the voltage here. So of course, the alarm now gets a very large potential across it, and the alarm triggers ringing a bell. So this is an example of how you might create a fire alarm using a thermistor. Right? You don't even need a thermometer at all. So they're using a circuit to do everything. Yeah, don't forget, you think these kind of circuits, like, I draw them very big, but nowadays with modern technology, right, we print them on circuit boards. They're actually very tiny. So thermistor thermometer is actually a very tiny circuit component. So of course they could have squeezed it in your phone. That's why some of your phones will have this ability to read the temperature around you. Right? Very, very easy to make. Right, so digital thermometers are like this. They use a thermistor somewhere inside them. Okay, now let's look at something else that's quite similar. It's called a light-dependent resistor. So like the thermistor, when light shines on the light-dependent resistor, its resistance decreases. So I'm creating an identical circuit to the previous case. It's just that I replace my thermistor with an LDR. So I use my potential divider equation. V here, the potential difference across this resistor, divided by the total potential difference, V naught here, is equal to the R here divided by the total resistance. So that's a potential divider equation again. I get the same result. Now, if I shine more and more and more light, expose it to a brighter and brighter light, the resistance of the light-dependent resistor will decrease. And I get a similar relationship between the voltage measured by the voltmeter versus the light intensity. So this is actually quite useful. Okay, consider the fact that I have maybe a solar panel, but in Singapore, got clouds lah. Then the light intensity will decrease and increase as a variation of time, right? So perhaps I have this vehicle, and on top of the vehicle, I mount a solar panel. I can connect the solar panel to a device, right, that will always maximize its voltage. That means it will rotate until its voltage is the maximum and remain there. Wouldn't this mean that my solar panel will always be pointed towards the brightest light source you can ever point at and absorb as much light as it can? That's one way to apply a light-dependent resistor, right? Okay, back home, a lot of our homes are getting smarter now. Basically, it means we can electronically control a lot of the functions. Now, you wouldn't want light to stream in your room when you're not at home, right? Because it makes your room hotter. So can you imagine rooms with blinds, right? And on the blind outside, there's a circuit like this. When sunlight lands on the circuit, it will close your blinds for you so that your home room is less warm when you get home. Sounds like a decent idea, right? PW. This is how you do PW. This is how you draw a circuit from PW. Use simple ideas like this to justify that you can make a very complicated product. Right, am I right? So these aren't very difficult circuits, right? You can see that they are really, really easy looking, but you can immediately apply them. Can you imagine with how humans have applied combinations of circuit components to do everything we're doing today? That's why we have all your technology, right? Okay, sorry, so now I've gone through the easy examples. We need to do the slightly more difficult ones. So take a look at example 5 circuit first. Okay, take a look at it. Now in this example, right, we have a battery. Okay, and the battery has an internal resistance of 1 ohm. It's connected to 2 more resistors in its circuit, so technically all the resistance are in series. Okay, but there's a special circuit component that I've inserted here. What's the circuit component? The earth. Okay, so the last lecture, one of the students came out to ask me an interesting question. If the earth is here, right, then won't the circuit be open? No, the earthing doesn't open the circuit. What the earthing does, right, is simply tell you that at this point, voltage 0. Okay, recall that when we talk about a battery, right, we can say that the EMF of a battery is 10 volts. So if the terminal head of the battery, I call it 10 volts, the tail will be 0 volts, right? But someone could easily say that, oh, I should call the head of the battery 0 volts and the tail of the battery minus 10 volts. He would be equally correct. So in circuits, typically only potential differences matter. the actual potential at a point, right, is not defined. Right? Earthing, however, would define it to be 0 for you. Okay, so that's relevant for our question. Because the question says, not find the potential difference between x and y, but find the potential at x and the potential at y. So we'll go about doing it using the potential divider principle again, of course. I'm going to say that the potential difference between x and z is equal to, apply potential divider principle, xz over xy must be equal to r xz over r xy. Okay, so the total resistance is at the bottom 3 plus 1 plus 1, and the resistance of xz is on top. So I'm able to get the potential difference of xz, but it still doesn't tell me the potential of x, because I don't know what it is, unless I know the potential of z. So it turns out we define vxz as vx minus vz. Okay, so this is the definition that you all need to know. PD vxy is vx minus vy. That's what it means. Okay, so potential difference is literally the difference in potential between the two indices points. Okay, so we know that at z, right, it's Earth. So at z, vz is 0. So you can just substitute your 6 in. 6 minus 0 is 6. Okay, that's for this case. Now for the other case, we want to find for y. We're going to do the same thing again, but this time we find the potential difference between z and y. Okay, and we end up with 2 volts. So Vzy is Vz minus Vy, which means that Vy must be negative 2. So Vy is negative 2 volts here. So does this mean current flows from the tail of from this side of the battery into Y and then back into the Earth? Is that what it means? Do you think that's what it means? No, when a point has a negative potential, there's nothing special about it. It's just that we apply the rule that current always flows from higher potential to lower potential, except in the battery. So higher potential to lower potential, which means this is 6, this is 0, this is 2, minus 2, which means current flows from X to Y, which is correct, of course. Right? So that's something we expected anyway. So the current will flow from 6 to 0 to minus 2 and back through the battery and repeat itself over and over again. So quite easy, right? Okay. So that's the application of our potential divider principle. Okay, end of the lecture with a short discussion on this thing called a short circuit. So remember this diagram I drew you? Actually the point X and Y, right, the dotted line within it, that's the battery itself. So no matter how good the battery is, right, it definitely has some resistance within itself because, you know, it's a real object. It can't be a perfect EMF source. It has some kind of components that go into making it up. Whether it's the chemicals or the plates that help you conduct the electricity, they have some form of resistance. Now, if I take a battery, right, and I connect a wire to these 2 ends, effectively I'm creating a series circuit. Right? It's in series with itself. Its internal resistance is actually dissipating energy. How much energy is it dissipating? Is equal to I times R. Right? So I can actually calculate for such a scenario where the internal resistance of a battery is half an ohm. That's not very big. Okay, it's very big for a real battery, but I mean half ohm is not a very big number. But 12 volts is pretty standard for a battery potential difference. Okay, or EMF. Okay, this is called a typical silk lead acid battery provides 12 volts. Your laptops run on 12 volts. Okay, so 12 volts, and I have a resistance of 0.5 ohms, I will derive a current of 24 amps. That's a lot. Okay, this means, right, that if I connect the tail of a battery to the head of a battery, 24 amps of currents are going through it right now, including within the battery itself. Right, so you know that when a current is very, very large, current is one of the components of power, right, because P equals to IV. So the potential difference across the battery itself is 12 volts, and the current is 24 amps. That's a lot of power, right? That's many, many, many joules. So you definitely, that's many, many watts. So you don't actually want that to happen. This is called a short circuit. Okay, and the battery will catch fire and explode. So sounds stupid, right? But you have actually seen it before in the news. Look at this. Okay, the Note 7 battery problem. Remember that? The Note 7 was recalled. Now, I'll just share you an interesting story. I had a conversation with Miss Go, the art teacher, and she said that it's a very good phone. And I said that what was wrong with it? What's wrong with it is only its battery. The phone itself is fine. The phone didn't cause the battery to explode. That means the phone itself is fine. What explodes is the battery. because they're trying to make the battery smaller and smaller and smaller. Don't forget your dry cells, right? They're just nothing but one type of chemical and another type of chemical. When you connect the two ends, there's some kind of chemical reaction taking place that allows you to have drive a current. You have learned this before in chemistry, right? Those of you who take chem. So what happens in a battery that malfunctions is somehow or another, the current not only flows in the external circuit, which is okay, it flows between them as well. So one of the possibilities is it heats up and it expands and then it breaks the barrier between the two chemicals. And this results in a short circuit. And it can heat up tremendously. And a battery, right, although it provides electricity, right, a battery is nothing but a compressed cylinder containing chemicals that when they try to expand, they will expand boom. Right? So they expand past their container. So that's why the battery is like that's all. Yeah. Okay, so just an interesting application to what we have learned so far. Okay, we'll do potential meters next lesson. You all are free to go. Thank you very much for your attention.